The Last Maandishi. An Epic Fantasy, by Devon Woods. Prologue. Translated from Mumbai Elders. His consciousness returns, and panic follows as the darkness remains through wide-open eyes. The brief panic feels eternal, and his heart sinks in fear. Finally, an orange glow catches the corner of his eye, and as one would gasp for air when suffocating, he rolls over to face the light with the same intensity. His blurred vision clears to reveal a small copper lantern, its flame, eerily still, in the warm stagnant air. As his eyes adjust to the low light, he identifies the smell of earth, and vegetation, and palm oil, from the lantern. He braces his hands on the ground to push himself up, but pauses to inventory himself for any sustained injuries. He finds nothing but fatigue, and a yearning to bathe. He pushes himself up to one knee, and recognizes the moist jungle beneath him as he dusts himself off. The lantern sits beside a large hickory door. He picks it up and examines the door, spotting the iron reinforcement easily. As he reaches for the large, ring-shaped door handle, it begins glowing, as if heated by a forge. He reels back when the emanating heat gets too intense, and notices tiny, red, glowing glyphs, engraved around the door. Realizing these are Maandishi glyphs, a sense of danger stirs in him, as he backs away slowly, and the glowing handle fades back to dark. Though he can see no other way to open it, he knows it is too soon for helplessness, despite his exhaustion. He shrugs off despair, and turns to examine the nearest wall. Shedding more light on the edge of the door, reveals it is masterfully wedged between trees, roots, and vines so densely intertwined, even the insects find them impenetrable. He walks the light along the three remaining walls, each made of the same thick-set jungle. As he approaches the last unexplored corner, he kicks over a small satchel, made of worn leather. He kneels to a restful position while opening the satchel, and finds only a small, brown leather-bound journal, and a black suede pouch. He opens the pouch to find it full of Wajenzi stones. Though it is his first time seeing these resin crystals as an adult, he knows as well as anyone that with these stones, those with knowledge of the Maandishi can carry out the ancient instructions left by the Wajenzi after Darkfall. Though he has not read any Maandishi as an adult, the memories they stir bring wonder, and heartache. With apprehension, he opens the journal to a random worn parchment covered in tiny Maandishi glyphs. They are handwritten in ink, faded with time, with a large glyph at the bottom, inked in red. He understands none of it, but knows for certain, the red glyph represents the fifth Wajenzi, whose essence, even now, gives ward to the hickory door. He glances down at his inner left forearm, and though too dark to see, he knows the old scar is there, faint, as his suppressed memories. Unsure how the anguish will affect him now, his shoulders sink, as he accepts the only means of escape. He searches the journal for pages with green glyphs larger than the rest, and upon finding them, he scans the pages for familiar passages. Almost immediately, he spots the glyphs that jog his childhood memory, along with his understanding of the Maandishi. He grabs the small pouch and pours some of the Wajenzi stones into his left hand. He picks out a small, jagged, translucent piece of sap-green resin, before returning the rest to the pouch. Finding the best edge, he begins to drag it along the contour of his muscular forearm, leaving a chalky, pale white marking from his elbow to his wrist. He refers to the journal for further instructions, and based on the general context of the glyphs he understands, he is able to interpret the unfamiliar passages. A cohesive concept begins to form in his mind, manifesting in words like corrosion, disintegration, blight, and decay. As the intent becomes clear, the marking on his forearm glows green. He feels the fabled Wajenzi essence, channeling through the marking, weighing on his forearm as if being held under rushing water. Breaking concentration, the marking fades to pale white, as he moves to the rear wall, opposite the large door. He finds a portion along the bottom wall, that is mainly vines and roots, and concentrates on the Maandishi again. Once more, His forearm glows green, as it channels the Wagenzi essence. He steadies his outreached hand, and places it on the vines and roots, almost instantly causing them to crack, and collapse a bit. If memory serves him, this falls short of the intended result. He refers to the journal yet again, to scan for any glyphs or symbols he may have misunderstood. He spots the misread passage, and finds that the correction calls for a piece of opaque, blue resin from the small pouch. He finds a piece and traces the current mark on his forearm, before returning to the wall to concentrate on the Maandishi. This time, the marking on his forearm glows cyan in color, as he holds a steady hand against the jungle wall. Almost instantly, the vines and roots begin to liquefy, dry out, turn brown, and wither away beneath his hand. With eyes shut tight, he maintains focus and pressure, pressing through the dead plant matter. The relief breaks his concentration, and slows the flow of channeled essence. He opens his eyes to see his hand is wrist deep into the wall, and realizes he will need both hands to create an opening large enough to fit through. He also notices the resin applied to his skin seems to have diminished some, and there is discomfort where the resin once was. With swelling resolve, he holds the blue and green stones together, and marks both of his forearms as detailed in the Maandishi, all the while recalling the excruciating pain felt so long ago. Minutes later, his hands are covered with Icarus, dead plant matter, as he breaches the wall with cyan forearms. The jungle humidity covers him like extra blankets as he gets to his feet, free from captivity. The chorus of buzzing insects swell in his ears, as he shoulders the satchel and watches the cyan fade on his arms. Unsure how he got here, and all sense of direction lost, he has to choose one of several paths that disappear into the jungle. He sprints down the center path with only a gut feeling and a boost of adrenaline. After several miles, the pathway narrows, forcing him to tread carefully through the jungle brush. The pathway curves and opens into a large clearing, where he sees a majestic, onyx-colored horse, peacefully grazing on shrubs. While little sunlight penetrates the dim clearing, he can see the saddle strapped to the horse is of Rahisi design, and well made. Hanging from the saddle is a large sword, with a curved blade that broadens toward the point, along with a matching shield. He scans the surrounding area several times, and there appears to be no one else around. He begins to speculate that the animal wandered into the jungle alone, or was perhaps abandoned. Either way, he knows it could mean the jungle's edge is nearby. He tries not to startle the horse as he slowly approaches it. The horse pays little attention as it barely cranes its neck for a brief view, before returning to the shrubs. As he gets dangerously close to the horse, the animal taps its hoof several times. Suddenly a deep voice speaks as if accompanied by distant, rolling thunder. "Your spirit is bold." The voice rumbles. The man stops dead in his tracks, as the voice rattles his soul. The insects suspend their buzzing, leaving a sudden, eerie silence. Finally, the horse raises its head and looks him square in the eyes. Terror sinks the man's heart, as the horse uncurls its hoof, and flexes its long, dark, leathered fingers. The animal snorts, as it exerts the energy to rear up on its hind legs. It staggers, but remains standing, as more toes uncurl from its rear hooves. Stunned by the sight of the 12-foot onyx horse, he realizes the animal's shoulders, arms, and legs have become more humanoid in shape. The horse draws the large sword from the saddle, its blade as long as the man. The thunderous voice continues. "You are as brave as you are clever. But, you offer me no sport, so, I promise you no pain." We hope you have enjoyed this prologue. Please stay tuned for Chapter 1 of The Last Maandishi by Davon Woods.